This conference will now be recorded.
Hi all, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the day one of the exclusive training provided by Isha Training Solutions, JMeter Beginner to Master with Groovy, Dynatrace, Kubernetes, Docker, InfluxDB, Grafana, Jenkins and BlazeMeter. So we had the demo session yesterday where we saw the different topics which we are going to cover as part of this training. So before I start for the day, I would like to reiterate that I'll request you all to be on mute. Whenever you have any queries, please unmute yourself and ask your queries. Please do not hesitate to ask queries. Getting the queries clarified is very much important, guys. So whatever queries you have, you can ask. And then all the sessions are going to be recorded. So all of you are going to have the lifetime access to the videos, also the documents whatever I'm going to demonstrate during the sessions, all of them will be shared with you along with the interview questions. Okay, so before I start for the day, anyone has any queries from yesterday? Any queries from anyone from yesterday? Okay, so let me start sharing my screen. I hope my screen should be visible to all of you. Can someone confirm please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you some pointers. Okay, I'll give you some pointers. You have to think what kind of testing we can do in order to cover those pointers. Clear, all of you? I'll give you some pointers. You have to think and tell me which kind of testing we can do or what comes to your mind when you hear about those pointers. Okay, on the day when the exam results are published, right, on the day when the exam results are published, during our childhood you all might have remembered viewing the results on the internet, was a pain. So the website should not open up, right? Similarly, Tatkal ticket booking, whoever is not from India, so Tatkal ticket booking is basically an emergency ticket booking system in India. And you know, right, how the population of India is. So there is huge demand for the emergency tickets as well, so that is known as the railway tatkal ticket bookings. Then any festive sale you take for the e-commerce application, any festive sale you take for the e-commerce applications. Okay, anyone, what do you think, which kind of testing can cover the pointers which I am referring to here, the main objective?
Spike
Load
test.
testing. Load, yeah, spike testing also and load testing also.
Spike testing, load testing. Okay, any other answers?
Maybe load testing.
Load testing, okay.
Performance, sir.
Sorry,
Performance testing also.
performance testing. Yes, performance testing. So performance testing will be the most appropriate answer, guys, because load testing, spike testing, and we'll see the other kinds of testing, they all will be under the performance testing. Next, will my infrastructure work in production? What happens to my data center operations in case there is an earthquake? Okay, we'll come to this. Similarly, can my application be hacked? Can my application be hacked? Is there any breach in the data security of my application? Can malwares be introduced into my application? Will my application be compatible with different browsers? Can my application be accessed by differently abled persons? Right? So the first one, the left top corner we discussed. You all answered it as performance testing. What about the other ones, guys? Anyone? What do you think? left bottom, right top, right bottom. What kind of testing could cover those?
In right bottom,
Security
first one will
testing.
be compatibility and second one will be accessibility.
Perfect. So compatibility, or to be more specific, browser compatibility, right? To be more specific, it is browser compatibility. And the second one, yes, you are right, it is accessibility testing, right? I'm glad that I'm getting the answers. Any other answers, anyone? Any other answers?
Security testing. Top right.
Yes. Which one is security testing?
Application hacked.
Yes, the right top box is my security testing, right guys? And then left bottom, anyone?
It's overall NF, right?
No, the left bottom is basically our operational readiness testing or operational accessibility testing or the site reliability testing. Understood? So all these different types of testing, performance testing, security testing, you said browser compatibility, accessibility, and then operational acceptance or operational readiness or site reliability, all these different types of testing, guys, are they coming under functional testing, anyone?
No, it's non-functional.
Perfect. That is non-functional testing, guys. So we have different types of non-functional testing. Understood? Where our main objective is not to verify the functionality. Are we verifying the functionality in this case? Are you verifying that I'm going to give a particular input condition for one of the functionality and I'm going to see whether that functionality is going to meet? That is not the objective here. Clear? So all those different types of testing will belong to non-functional testing. So the different types of non-functional testing are performance testing. First one, performance testing, guys. Next, site reliability testing or operational acceptance testing or your operational readiness testing. People call it differently. Okay. Security testing. Okay, security testing. Then browser compatibility testing and accessibility testing. So these are the different types of non-functional testing, guys. And believe me, all these different kinds of testing are done in different projects. So you have so many different types of testing where you can have a career, guys. Understood? And out of all these, performance testing and security testing are very much in demand. If you ask me, out of these, which one should you pursue, then you can pursue any one of them. But if you are looking for a very highly demanding job, then performance testing and security testing are the ones, guys. Okay. Remember, we do not have many resources in these fields. Even in operational acceptance testing or operational readiness testing, accessibility testing, browser compatibility testing, everything is important, guys. Okay. Accessibility testing is very, very important for US customers, for UK customers, because they pay a lot of importance for accessibility also. Okay. Any queries, anyone till now? Did all of you understand the different types of non-functional testing?
Yes.
So as part of this training, we are going to cover performance testing. So next time when you hear about non-functional testing, don't only think that performance testing is only non-functional testing, because some projects, some managers, they think that okay, performance testing is only my non-functional testing. No, there are different areas of non-functional testing and performance testing is one of them. Our training is going to focus on performance testing. Okay, our training is going to focus on performance testing because we are going to learn JMeter. Next, why performance testing is required? Okay, why performance testing is required? First guy is speed. Nowadays, every user is impatient, right? All of you agree? Every user is impatient. No one is ready to accept any application which takes longer time to respond. What is the meaning of respond? Means you have clicked on any URL, you have launched any application. How fast that application is appearing on your browser or on your mobile device, that is very much important, guys, for the users. Now, organizations do, they did not give much importance to performance testing earlier. They thought if my functionality is working fine, the user should be happy with it. But again, there was no much competition, right, previously. But nowadays, for every domain, you will see so many competitors. So if one user is not happy with any particular application, they will simply jump to the other applications. For us, it might just be an application, but for the application owners, it is a business, right? And no businessman wants to have loss. Everyone wants to have profit. The customer footprint, everyone wants to increase the customer footprint. So performance testing is very much crucial. Okay, it defines the user experience. It defines the user experience. You can tell whether the user is having a pleasant experience, satisfactory experience, or unpleasant experience in the application. Understood? So speed, guys, means how fast my application is responding, how fast the web pages are opening. Let's say you are using a payment application, how fast the payments are getting processed, or within how much time the payment should get processed. That will be the objective of the customer. Clear, all of you? But what I mean by speed, do you all understand?
Yes.
One aspect is speed. Who did not understand any queries? Any queries, anyone? Okay, next, guys, scalability. That is another very important factor. Now, what is scalability? Okay, now just imagine there is an application A. There is an application A. That application is currently catering to, let's say, 10,000 users in production. That application is catering to 10,000 users in production. Now, 2 years down the line, will the application owner or will the company still be happy with 10,000 users, or they would want to increase their customer footprint? Understand what is customer footprint, everyone? Means number of users coming to their platform and using it. So you tell me whether anyone would like to have the same number of customers, or they would like to increase the customer footprint. Any
They would
application.
like to increase the footprint.
Perfect. Everyone would like to increase the footprint. Similarly, 5 years down the line also, right? 10 years down the line. Now, any application, when everyone wants to increase their customer footprint, so when the more and more customers come to the application should also be able to handle that load, right? The application should also be able to handle that load. Otherwise, there is a problem, right, all of you? If the application is not able to handle the load, there is a problem or not, everyone? Clear? So again, when I am doing a project now, for example, and investment in IT cost a lot, right? Investment in IT cost a lot. So every 3 years, every 2 years, I cannot keep on investing in IT. As a, let's say, I am a small company, okay? I cannot keep on investing in IT projects, right? So whenever I'm developing one application now, I will think that 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, whether the same application will be able to cater to the increased customers or not, increased users or not. Based on that, I will ask my solution architect to design the application architecture accordingly, to plan the capacity of my servers accordingly. Understood? So when there is increase in the number of users, the application will be able to cater to that increased number of users or not. That we are verifying with the scalability factor, whether my application is scalable or not. Will it be able to cater to the increased number of users or not? Is it clear to all of you? Scalability. So we are measuring speed, we are measuring scalability via performance testing. Any queries? Did all of you understand what is scalability? So
Yes.
nowadays you all must have heard about cloud, right? Cloud, Azure cloud, Google cloud, Amazon cloud, AWS, right? Every service sector or every application is on the cloud now. Most of the applications are on the cloud now. You will see the migration projects where the applications are getting migrated to cloud. So the main point based on which these companies are selling their product is that our infrastructure will be auto scalable, right? Our infrastructure is highly scalable. So scalable means based on the volume, based on the load, the applications can automatically scale up. So that is my scalability, guys. That is why everyone is thinking about cloud, right? Any queries, anyone's?
So HA and FT is part of scalability.
Yes. You are saying means about high availability you are saying, right?
Yeah, high availability and fault tolerance.
Yes. Along with scalability, that high availability part will actually come under your operational acceptance testing. Understood? Scalability is one factor, definitely. So when more number of users are coming up, whether my application will be available or not, or it is able to perform or not. But along with that, if my primary server goes down, or if we consider about nodes, right, or we consider about pods, containerized applications. So if one pod goes down, whether my application will be up and running or not. If one primary node goes down, whether my application will be up and running or not. So those are all high availability concepts that will actually be part of operational acceptance testing. Understood? Next, now guys, just imagine that yes, my application is having good speed, my application is highly scalable, means my application is able to respond faster, my application you know is able to cater to the increased number of users. But what if it is only able to do it for a shorter period of time? Means the speed is good, the scalability is there only for a shorter period of time, but not for a longer period of time. So is that desirable, guys? Is that good performance?
No. No.
All of you understood? My application is having good speed, my application is highly scalable, but that speed and scalability remains for a smaller duration, for example, not for a longer duration. So is that desirable?
No.
No.
No, right? All of you, the answer is no, or anyone is thinking yes. So it is also very important that the speed and the scalability factor of the application is consistent for longer duration of the time. Means we have applications, running 24/7. So the performance, like with respect to speed, with respect to scalability, should always be there, guys. Should always be there. So that is my reliability factor, whether my application is reliable or not. Whether my application is reliable or not. Most of the times, these are the three factors. Okay, these are the three factors because of which we want to do performance testing. Am I clear, all of you? These are the three factors because of which we want to do performance testing. Clear, all of you? Any queries,
Yes, sir.
anyone?
Yes, sir. No.
Perfect. Any queries? Others? See, guys, ask queries. How many times I'm asking any queries? So by that you must be understanding that I'm encouraging queries. Okay, let's make this session interactive. Okay, so in performance testing there are so many terminologies, guys. There are so many terminologies which we will hear day in day out. So in order to become a performance test engineer, you should be aware of those terms, right? You should be aware of those terms. So we will discuss about the common terminologies which we are going to use in performance testing. First one, virtual user. Virtual user. When we all are using any application, when we all are using any application, we all are users, end users, right? We all are end users, but we are real users, guys. We are real users. Now let's say I have a requirement that I have to do the performance testing with 10,000 users. Understand this carefully, okay? I have to do the performance testing with 10,000 users. Does that mean I will have a setup where I will have 10,000 systems? 10,000 users means 10,000 users have to use the application at one go, parallelly, right? So does that mean I will have 10,000 systems? I will hire 10,000 people, right? And I'll ask all of them to keep on using the application for 1 hour, 2 hour. Is that practically possible, guys?
No, sir.
It's
No.
very difficult.
No, sir.
It's very difficult to manage, right? It is very difficult to manage such things. But we have these requirements. Let's say 10,000 users, 50,000 users. How will we do that, right? We have to test the performance of the application. So that is where the performance testing tool will help us. It will help us. Performance testing tool will generate the users, guys. Performance testing tool will generate the users. So those users are known as virtual users. Understood? Those users are known as virtual users. And remember, in JMeter, virtual users will be called as threads. Virtual user will be called as a thread. So when we will learn about JMeter, I will use either thread or virtual user. So please understand that thread is nothing but a virtual user.
Virtual
Okay,
users.
thread, guys. Okay, thread. So next, response time. Response time. This is very, very important, guys. One moment. Give me a moment. I'll again start the sharing. So we are going to discuss about response time. I want to draw a figure. So you all know what is client server architecture, guys? You all know what is client server architecture, right? My screen is visible, all of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So client means the system or the browser on which any user is using the application. It can be a mobile device, it can be the application which you have installed on the mobile device, or it can be a browser on your mobile device. It can be any desktop, any laptop, and the browser installed on your laptop or desktop, right? So that is my client. Server means where my application server is there, database server, web server, etc. Okay, the application infrastructure. When you launch any application, for example, right? You launch any application. Let's say you give the web URL as www.google.com. So what happens, guys? Can anyone tell me what is actually happening?
Sending
Client
request
will
from the server.
Sorry, one by one will go. Yeah.
Sending request from client to server.
Yes. Any other answers?
Yeah, sending request from client to server and getting the response from server.
Perfect. So when you are going to launch the URL, what happens? That request will go from the client to the server, right? Then let's say you type www.google.com. Then on your browser you are seeing like Google, right? Google, and then you have a search field and all. So that is how it is coming, guys. That is the response from the server. That is the response from the server, which is then rendered on your browser. Understood? Clear, all of you? So how that is happening, guys? How that is happening? The request which you send from the client to the server processed that request. Understood? The server processed that request, guys. The request which came here, right, to the server, it got processed by the server. Now how it is processing? For that the logic would be written by the application team, right? So it got processed by the server. Then the response is sent back to the client. Now the response can be a valid response, the response can be an invalid response. It will depend on the request which you have sent and also on the physical state of the server. Now this is a, like the request is going, the server is processing, then the response will come back. So definitely there will be some time involved, guys. The server will take some time to process the request. Right or wrong? The server will take some time to process the request. So remember, the time taken by the server to process any request is known as the response time for that particular request. The time taken by the server to process the request. This is official definition, guys. Now there is another term known as latency. There is another term known as latency. Let's say the time taken by the server to process the request is X. Okay, time taken by the server to process the request is X. Then when the response is sent back, it is always, it is an information, guys, right? Information, and information is transferred in the form of what? information is transferred in the form of packets, right? Data packets or bytes. Clear all of you? So the information will not be transferred at one go. Means in the form of data packets, that information will be sent back from the server to the client. So all the entire information will not reach the client at one go, guys, or at a single point of time. So there will be a first byte which will reach, then a second byte, then third byte, and so on till entire response is reached. So there is a term known as TTFB. TTFB. Time to first byte, guys. Time to first byte. Time to first byte means how much time it took for the first byte to reach from the server to the client. From the server to the client, how much time it took for the first byte to reach. Are all of you clear on this?
Yes.
All of you clear? How much time did it take for the first byte to reach? That is your time to first byte. Let's say that time to first byte is y. Time to first byte is y. By official definition, x plus y. Okay, x plus y is known as your latency. Means the time taken by the server to process the request plus time taken to first byte to reach from the server to the client is known as your latency. But in performance testing, response time and latency are used interchangeably. Okay, but if we go by official definition, response time is the time taken by the server to process the request, that will be x. Y is your time to first byte, so x plus y is basically your latency, but people use latency and response time interchangeably. Okay, means not interchangeably, rather they sometimes they call latency also as response time, guys. Okay, latency will always be higher than response time. Am I clear? Is it clear, all of you? So what is
Yes.
response time? Did all of you understand? Next, let's tell me.
One question, sir. So, like, if there are any buffers and all in between the response we are getting from the server, so that will be added in latency, right? Not in the response time.
No, why you are getting a buffer? You tell me.
Like sometimes there can be chances that that server is down or like it's not responding properly. So like the application can buffer for some time. So
Yes.
that duration,
So
yeah.
if this buffering is there, it means the server is taking time to process. Are you getting me? So if it is buffering, then it will impact your response time. Here,
Yes.
if my application is buffering, then it will impact my response time. It will increase my response time, right? Because the user is not getting the response. Okay. Any other queries, anyone?
So latency is whatever the time taken from server to reach client.
To the client. But for the first byte.
Okay.
But that is time to first byte. Latency is time to first byte plus response time also.
Okay.
And this, I told you x plus y. That otherwise, if time to first byte only, then why would we call it latency? That will be called as time to first byte, right?
Yes.
Yes. The next term is throughput. What do you understand by throughput, anyone guys? Not with respect to performance testing. I'm not asking you with respect to performance testing. So if I ask you the meaning of throughput, what will you say?
Number of data sending per second.
Okay.
Yeah, transaction per second or per hour, per minute.
See, you
That
went to performance testing, so I believe you know about it. I asked you, means don't answer with respect to performance testing. What is throughput? Throughput is nothing but my processing speed, guys. Any fact, any one you take, whether it is any machine, whether it is any person, right? We can define the throughput, the amount of work we are doing per unit time. So similarly, in performance testing also, we have throughput. We have throughput. The figure which I showed you, there is one request going. In real time, there will be so many users using the application, right? There will be so many users using the application. So do you think there will be only one request going to the server? No, right? At any point
no.
of time, there would be so many requests going to the server, right? At any point of time, there would be so many requests going to the server. So at any point of time, the server would be processing a lot of requests, right? At any point of time, the server would be processing a lot of requests. So the number of requests processed by the server per unit time, that unit time can be seconds, unit time can be minutes, unit time can be hours. Okay, so I'm saying per unit time. So the number of requests which can be processed by a server per unit time is called its throughput. Do you all understand? The number of requests which can be processed by the server, number of requests which can be processed by the server per unit time will be called its throughput. Means how many number of requests it is able to process, guys. Then request you all know, from the client to the server it will go whenever the user is doing any user action or it is performing any action on the application. There will be a request triggered to the server.
Can we measure efficiency through throughput?
Sorry, can you please be a bit louder?
Can we measure efficiency through throughput?
Yes, uh, we can say it means throughput is also a measure of efficiency, right? And if you're asking if we can measure the throughput of any application through the tools, the answer is yes. Okay. So JMeter will also help us to measure the throughput. Clear? Okay. Then request. Request we all know, right? We discussed also. So whenever any user action will be performed, the request will go from the client to the server. Response. Server will process the request and it will produce the response, right? Server will process the request, it will process the response. The response can be a valid response, the response can be an invalid response also. We'll see that in details later. So request has again different components, guys. Request header, request body. Similarly, response also has a response header, response body, and response status codes also are there. Okay, response status codes are also there. Here, all of you. Then transaction, guys. Transaction. What is a transaction? People get confused. Okay. Now let's say I'm telling you a scenario, guys. Okay. You have to book a flight. You have to book a flight. Tell me what all steps will you do basically? I'm giving you a system and you have to book a flight. You are a user. I'm asking you to test the book a flight scenario of my application. Let's say I've developed the application to book the flight. I want you to functionally test it. So as a user, what will you do? Anyone?
First, we'll launch the site.
Okay, good. We will first of all launch the site or launch the application. All of you understood, guys? Okay, next.
Okay, then like as a dummy user, you can either, if it is already registered, then you can log in with the credentials. Otherwise,
Perfect.
you can search. Yes.
Okay, then.
Otherwise, you can search as a
Okay, then.
first time user, and then you will be able to like filter like with the date, with the
Yeah,
flights
we'll
and
provide the
all.
different details, right?
Correct, different details.
Source, destination, then onward travel
Due
date,
to
return
travel.
travel date, if it is a
Yes,
round trip, right? How many
yes.
passengers, all those details you will provide. Then,
Then accordingly we'll get the search result.
means we are basically searching for flights, right? We are searching for flights with our criteria, required criteria. Okay, then.
Then once we get the search results, if it is okay for us, then we'll select that and proceed with the payment.
Okay, what we are doing? We are selecting the flight.
Correct.
We are selecting the flight. Perfect.
Selecting flight.
Then you will
Then do
do
the
the payment,
payment.
right? You
Correct.
will do the payment,
Right.
and your flight should
Then
be
you
booked.
correct. Then you will get a confirmation.
Yes. Then you log out, right?
Right.
Because I'll take my laptop back, right, from you. Okay. So guys, it was very well explained. All of you would have understood what are the steps when we book a flight. Now, when we are doing those actions as a user, they are user actions. That entire business flow or entire scenario, book flight, whatever steps we heard, they all constitute a user flow or business flow. Understood, all of you? That is a business flow or user flow. Now, in order to complete that user flow, the user did so many actions. When the user was doing the actions, there would be some requests going to the server in the backend. Do all of you understand? The requests would be going to the server in the backend, right? Now remember, whenever any action which the user is doing, whenever any action which the user is doing, and there is an interaction with the server, very very important, guys, remember this. Whenever the user is doing any action on the application, as a result of that action, if there is an interaction with the server, because some actions might not lead to an interaction with the server. Do all of you understand? Every action might not lead to an interaction with the server, guys. For example, I'll tell you, there is an email field. There is an email field. I am providing an invalid email ID. So I'll get an error, guys, right? I'll get an error. So when you provide an invalid ID, in most of the cases, do you think the validation is happening at the server end?
No, at the front end, like JavaScript.
Sorry?
But in APIs it will be right. Why will be for invalid? it will be striking the API and will be getting some response due to
No, why
invalid.
I did not say API, right? I'm asking about web application. In general, in most of the cases, I'm saying in
Yeah.
most of the web applications, whenever we are giving an invalid email ID, it gives us an error message, right? Please put the email ID in valid format. So, what I'm trying to say is, in that case, whether the interaction is happening with the server or not, what do you think?
No, it is not happening.
No.
It is not
No?
happening. No. Yeah.
Front end.
Are all of you sure?
It will interact
Yeah.
with server and give us the response like invalid credentials. Please
It
contact
will.
administrator.
This is code for the JavaScript front end will work in this field.
So guys, there are two types of validations. Okay, one is server side validation, another one is client side validation. The validation will happen on the client side itself. So the example which I told you, in most of the cases that will be a client side validation. Okay, it will be a client side validation. Let's say I'm filling up a form, there is an email ID field, I am providing an invalid email ID. So the request will not go to the server, guys. Understood? The request will not go to the server, the interaction will not happen with the server, because the client side validation will happen over there. So remember, any user action which leads to an interaction with the server, that will be called as a transaction. That will be called as a transaction. So multiple transactions, okay, multiple transactions constitute a user flow, or your user flow consists of multiple transactions. Your business flow consists of multiple transactions. Clear? Is it clear? Transactions per second. So we have discussed about throughput. So here also the transactions per second means how many transactions are getting processed per second. Throughput, I told you, number of transactions processed per unit time. Here I am specifying the unit of time as second. So transactions per second means what is the number of transactions processed per second. So throughput or transactions per second, they can be used interchangeably. The through the transactions per second will be commonly known as TPS. You will hear this lot of times, guys. TPS. Okay, TPS, transactions per second. In 1 second, how many transactions are happening? That is your transactions per second. Okay. Next, guys, another term is iteration. Another term is iteration. So what is iteration? So we discussed the steps to book a flight, guys. We discussed the steps to book a flight. From launch till log out, there are different transactions, there are different steps, and from launch to log out, that is my one complete user flow. That is my one complete user flow. One round of user flow, one round of user flow, or when you do one round of those transactions, when you book one flight, when you launch, then you book, and then you log out, that is one round of user flow. One round of user flow is known as one iteration. One round of user flow is known as one iteration, guys. Am I clear? Now, why are we discussing iteration? Okay, why are we discussing iteration? Now, the book flight scenario which we discussed, how much time it will take, guys, to complete that? How much time will it take to book a flight by a user?
So requirement is clear. It will take around 5 minutes.
It will
Maybe
take
five
around
to
5
ten minutes.
minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes it will take when you have to think a lot, right? Which is economical, which is suiting me, right? Oh, what are the best options when you think a lot? Clear? So basically, let's take 5 minutes, guys. Okay, let's say one iteration will take 5 minutes. So in performance testing, we will do the tests usually for 1 hour or 2 hours. We'll do the tests usually for 1 hour or 2 hours. We'll discuss that. So if my book flight, let's say I'm going to do the performance testing of book flight user flow. If my booking of flight takes only one round of book flight takes only 5 minutes, what will I do the rest of time, guys? Right? What will I do the rest of time in my test? What we are going to do, we are going to do multiple iterations. We are going to do multiple iterations, means one iteration will be completed, then second iteration means another round of book flight, then another round of book flight. What the objective is? The objective is that we are putting the system under constant load for a particular duration of time. We are putting the system under load, right? We are putting the system under load for a particular duration of time, and we will keep on doing iteration after iteration, iteration after iteration. So did all of you understand what is iteration? One complete round. In JMeter, iteration will be called as loop. Okay, in JMeter, iteration will be called as loop, guys. Clear, all of you? Iteration. Any queries on iteration? Then we have iterations per second. We have iterations per second, means in 1 second how many iterations are getting completed. In 1 second how many iterations are getting completed. That is my iterations per second. Now this is very important, guys. What is think time? Think time. Perfect. That book flight scenario which we discussed, right? You told like it will take 5 minutes or it will take 10 minutes. Once I launch the application, as soon as I launch the application, will I quickly log in? As soon as I log in, will I quickly provide the details and search for the flight? As soon as I search for the flight, I will select the flight. As soon as I select the flight, I will make the payment. As soon as I make the payment, I will book the flight. As soon as I book the flight, I will log out from the application. Is that how I am going to use the application, guys, as a real user?
No, it takes some time between the transactions.
Perfect. Did all of you understand the point, guys, what I am trying to convey? When I'm going to do the user flow, there will be different transactions. Will I do the transactions one after the another as soon as the previous one finishes? No, right? We take some time between the transactions. We take some time between the transactions. That can be intentional or unintentional. The time which we are taking, that can be intentional or unintentional, but we take some time. Ideally that we take to think, right? Or we just give some delay. That time, guys, that time is known as think time. So that time you are giving between what? Between transactions, right? There is a time delay between the transactions. There is a time delay between the transactions. So the time delay between the transactions is known as think time. And remember, in performance testing, our main objective is to simulate real user behavior. Our objective is to simulate real user behavior. If the real user is going to take some time, which we consider as think time, we have to implement think time in our performance testing also. We have to implement think time in performance testing also. Okay. Next one, pacing. Any queries, anyone on think time? Next is pacing. What is pacing? I told you that we will do multiple iterations. We'll do multiple iterations. So once you complete one round of iteration, then you have to do second round, then you have to do third round. If you want to provide any time delay between the iterations, understood? If you have to provide the time delay between the iterations, that we will call as pacing. So very important, guys. In interviews you will be asked what is the difference between think time and pacing. So you need to clearly say the time delay between the transactions is known as think time, whereas the time delay between the iterations is known as pacing. And these two parameters play a vital role in the workload model design, which we are going to see in the future session. Clear, all of you? Think time and pacing, are all of you clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So with this, we'll stop the session for today. Thank you all for joining. We'll resume in the next one.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell me.
like we have duration as well, right? In the
Yes, we
in
have duration.
JMeter.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it related to think time, pacing time, and duration? Is all related?
No, duration is basically your entire test duration.
Okay.
Okay, duration is your entire test duration. And there are different things, we'll see that. Okay, duration can be your entire test duration, or duration can be for different phases of your execution. Okay, we'll see that. But think time is
Okay.
basically the time delay between the two transactions. Pacing is the time delay between two iterations.
Durations. Yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay, any
Sir,
other
I have
queries,
one
anyone?
question.
Yes, please.
In the starting of the class, we have discussed about speed, scalability, and reliability.
Yeah.
So, when we are navigating through different pages, if we observe there is slowness in the page, then what is the step that we need to do?
Yes, so that is basically our analysis phase. We'll have to see for what is happening there. So there are so many things which we have to check there. We'll discuss them later actually. Okay,
Okay, okay, fine.
because that is performance issue which we have directly jumped to. Okay. Okay. Any other
Okay.
queries? Anyone? Okay. So we'll stop the session for today. Thank you all for joining.